Yeah, thank you everyone for joining the CAB call. This is the October CAB call for the Cloud Foundry community. First item we have on the agenda is some updates from Bird Rock. Andrew, do you want to take it away?
Sure, thanks, Rob. So there is a meeting that has historically been the CF-for-k8s SIG call, which was focused primarily around the CF-for-k8s project with tangential items as well. And that's been run by recently Bern Cranch, and thank you very much for him running that for a while. And this bi-weekly meeting, we decided might fulfill a pretty good purpose with the ongoing efforts in general in the CF space on Kubernetes. So we're sort of retooling the meeting to meet that need. And so it'll be focused around a broader set of topics that are anything in that space. And it's also going to be a place to talk about a newly approved working group that is the CloudFoundry on Kubernetes space. So that'll be anyone that wants to talk about the new projects that we've spun up, the CF-k8s API, CF-k8s controllers, which are like a new interpretation of the CloudFoundry API on Kubernetes, as well as any other projects that people want to bring up or any other topics. So it's really going to be a forum for people to bring their concerns, to discuss and sort of mold the decisions we're making, since we really want to have people involved because we're trying to build products for people to use. So that's sort of the short blurb, and we'd really love for people to come out. Again, it's a bi-weekly meeting, and I'll be posting requests for topics on the CF-k8s dev channel on the CloudFoundry Slack.
Great. Any folks have any questions for Andrew? Going once, going twice. Thanks, Andrew. Obviously, the invitation for that call is also available on the Cloud Foundry calendar. So folks that are interested in either contributing or sort of working with the community in shaping the future of how Cloud Foundry will work on Kubernetes are invited and welcome to join that call and, air their thoughts and ideas and share their concerns. So the next sort of big item we had on the agenda was to give folks an update about where we stand with respect to the different working groups that are being formed to manage the Cloud Foundry projects. In terms of the origin of these changes, as you're all quite well aware, we had the Technical Oversight Committee elections conclude a few months ago, and since then the TOC has been hard at work in somewhat changing the way we have governed the CF projects so far. So we're transitioning from a PMC kind of governance to more of a working groups kind of model. It's not important that we get into the technicalities of what the different models are, but we need to be aware, I guess, that there are 6 different working groups, and each of whom are responsible for like a particular area of the Cloud Foundry tool itself. And the 6 working groups that we have are the app runtime interfaces. There's a Paketo centric working group. There's something for service management. There's a vulnerability management, and there's one for community experience as well. We have Stefan today on the call. So Stefan, do you want to give a few updates to the team? Sorry to pick on you, but Stefan is a member of the TOC, and I think it's great if he can share um, some information about the current status um, of these working groups.
Yeah, welcome from my side. I'm Stefan. I'm one of the members of the TOC. I work with SAP, and there are two more important working groups. One is the application runtime working group that takes over Diego and everything for the container management, and a foundation working group that takes over of Bosch, UAA, and a number of other infrastructure closer components that did not fit so well somewhere else. What we are currently doing is that we write down charters for the different working groups. You can see them in the community GitHub project, and find the list of all GitHub repositories that and assign them to the different working groups, and collect the initial approvers. That means basically the committers formally, but yeah, that's the steps that are currently running, and then each work group will get a work group lead, and that is then responsible to run the daily business within the working group. Once it is established for all the working groups, then the hope is that this new, let's say, more open, more PR-driven process of collaboration can get into action. And one critical point is here to get sufficient approvers. The name is chosen by intention because they have the responsibility to review and judge on incoming PRs, and to take care that the different projects are actually open for everybody. I guess if I remember correctly, 3 or 4 of these working groups are already finalized in the sense that the PRs are committed, and we have all the projects and the initial set of approvers and the work group lead defined. Of course, such a working group is never finished, and it can change over time, and it will change over time. There are still some working groups in progress. For instance, the upper runtime interfaces working group is not yet finalized, but I assume that this will happen within the next, let's say, 2 weeks.
Yeah, I think it's been a process of a lot of churning, especially from the TOC members, and identifying the right kind of folks, and having them on these different working groups, and I guess getting them to accept at some level. But the TOC has been hard at work, and just so folks know, the TOC meets every Tuesday. That meeting again is also available on the calendar, and we receive some status updates about the different efforts that they are taking on. I think like Stefan mentioned, there's like a bunch of working groups that are kind of sort of finalized, for whatever that means. But I think it checks the boxes for what is like required at a minimum to get the working groups going, and getting some of the work started. And I guess there's like one working group, I think the community experience working group, that is still the one that that needs to see a little more participation, and obviously the TOC is aware of that and working on it. So yeah, so just wanted to share that information on this call as well. If folks have any feedback, you're welcome to share them. Do take a look at the repo. I've posted it on the chat, and if folks want to interact directly or comment on the repos and the issues or the PRs that are there, you're welcome to do so. If anyone has any questions for Stefan, um, you know, ask away, I guess. Okay, quiet group today. um, Thanks, Stefan, um, for uh, for jumping in and sharing all of those updates. So for the, I guess the third part of the call, I had invited Peter from tatev.de. Peter, do you want to quickly introduce yourself?
Yes, I can. Hello, everyone. Glad to be here. I'm Peter. I work at Dativ EG in Germany. It's a big software company, one of the biggest in Europe. And we develop software for tax lawyers, auditors, and their clients. That's mainly software about tax declarations, bookkeeping, payroll accounting, and so on. And we have our own data center, and we use CloudFoundry as our platform as a service system.
Right. So I had seen a tweet from one of Peter's colleagues about them doing a presentation on sidecars and them showcasing internally, I guess, about some of these nifty CloudFoundry features. And I reached out to them asking them if they wanted to demo some of this and basically do a show and tell, get some feedback, what have you. And so, here again, was kind enough to introduce me to Peter, who actually gave the talk. And in turn, Peter was happy to share some of his work with us and basically showcase what they're doing and how they've been taking advantage, in particular about sidecars and CF and stuff. So, yeah, Peter, why don't you kick things off and show us the good stuff?
Thanks a lot, Ram. First, the question to all, are you all familiar with the sidecar pattern, or should I introduce it a bit?
I believe we're familiar with it.
You're all familiar. Okay, then I'm going to start with how you use sidecars in CloudFoundry and what we did with it. So let me share my screen. I hope it's working. So now you should see my presentation.
Yep.
Okay, great. If you're familiar with something I'm talking about, please step in, then I can jump over and go straight to the demo. Otherwise, I give a bit of an introduction how sidecars in CloudFoundry are working. So how to use sidecars in CloudFoundry. As you all know, the typical CloudFoundry app has its core business features. They are running inside an app process, which is surrounded by an app container and the CloudFoundry Diego cells. When we use a sidecar is, well, come on, sidecar, where are you? Ah, yes. If you want to use a sidecar, then the sidecar is deployed into the same app container with its supporting feature, for example, authentication, authorization, or monitoring, or something like this. And the sidecar is running in our own process in the same app container as the business application. Those processes has to communicate. So it's an inter-process communication between sidecar and your business application. CloudFoundry offers several opportunities how to communicate between both. One is you can use a file system. So, for example, the service can write into a file and the sidecar can read this file and do something with the data written in there. Another possibility is you use Unix sockets or HTTP requests. These HTTP requests are requests using localhost, so they're quite fast and faster than requests between CloudFoundry apps. In the demo, I will focus on the HTTP request because that's not what we're using in our company at the moment. If you have your application, it's typically that the app process is running on port 8080 because all CloudFoundry requests are default forwarded to this port. Though the Sidecar process has to run on another port, in this example 8083. And if a request comes in, the CloudFoundry will forward the request to the app process, and then the process can do its business functionality. And if it needed the Sidecar features, it can send a request to the Sidecar process using localhost and the port the Sidecar is listening to. Of course, it's also possible to do it the way around, so that the request is forwarded to the Sidecar process at first. Then the Sidecar is working as a proxy, doing some features, and then routing to the app process and sending a request to localhost 8 to port 8083 in this example. What I'm going to show you in the demo yes, first of all, I forgot there are two possibilities how you can deploy a sidecar to CloudFoundry. The first is you can create your own custom build pack, and in this build pack you can integrate the sidecar so that everyone who uses your build pack has automatically the sidecar deployed into its application. The second approach is you can use a service manifest, the typical manifest for you need for an application, and there you can configure the sidecar deployment. And that's what we're going to use in the demo. The demo has this example. That's how we started first. We have our demo up with our business functionality that's running as an own application in CloudFoundry. Then we needed some security features like authentication. And we first decided to deploy another app in CloudFoundry, a security app. And the security app is called by our external clients. The security app does authentication and other things. And then if it's okay, it calls the demo app using CloudFoundry internal routing. What we're doing in the demo, we're integrating the security app without any code changes into the demo app and using a sidecar. So that's at first the request will be forwarded to the sidecar process. It will authenticate the user and then send a request to localhost 8083 to the demo app doing its stuff. So, as you can see here, in our CloudFoundry space, there are two apps running, a demo sidecar standalone and a CF-for-k8s security standalone. That are these two applications. Quickly show you what they're doing. It's pretty simple. The demo sidecar standalone has a greeting API. If you send a request to it, you can see here it's returning hello world. When we use the security standalone app with the greeting API, without authentication, it will return, hopefully, as here it's HTTP status 401 unauthorized. If I add typical HTTP authorization with username and password in this example. Then it will return hello user. So it's called the demo app, which returns the string, and in between is the authentication that the user is allowed to access it. So to get a sidecar, an application to be able to deploy the sidecar, we have to do something. Our demo app has its default manifest, that's it, with memory disk quota and a bit of Java stuff, so it runs. I prepared already a new manifest, including a sidecar. And what you have to do, there's several things. First of all, there's a sidecar configuration. So with this, you can add one or more sidecars to be deployed with the application. Sidecar has always a name, has some memory requirements, and a process type. In my example, the process type is web. There are a few others you can use. For my example, because of the HTTP endpoint, it's a web. And that's the stuff that was most difficult to get able to run is the command. The command is the command that Cloud Foundry uses to start the sidecar. That depends on the technology you're using in their sidecar. In this example, the sidecar is also a Java application. But the command is a Java call with Java means jar and the jar file and a bit of configuration. We had some difficulties. It was difficult to find the correct path for the Java runtime. We weren't able to find any documentations what you have to use. So it was a bit of research to be made to find this right one and to get it working. Another tricky part of using sidecars with HTTP are the ports. In this example, you can see there are two port things. So first of all, this one, the Java opts server port equals 8083. That's a port configuration for the demo app. And for the sidecar, we have to add a server port environment variable 2 with port 8080. That was also a bit difficult at first to find the correct options and where you have to set them. And in the end, you'll have to increase the memory requirements, usually perhaps also the disk quota, so that there's enough resources for both, because in this example, there will be 2 JVMs running in the same process, and the memory has to be large enough for both. So now we have our manifest. Next, we're going to deploy the app. The first thing we have to do is we have to create the application. So we're using the Cloud Foundry commands here, create app, and I have to use the correct name. That's a CF-for-k8s app with sidecar, and then the app is created. The next thing we have to do is we have to add the manifest to this application. There's a command called CF apply manifest with the manifest. Now the manifest will be applied to the application. Then finally, we have to push the application to Cloud Foundry. There's another thing you have to do first before you can push the application. It's one single deployment, so you have to integrate all your sidecars into the artifact you're deploying for your application. In this example, we have to integrate the sidecar jar into the demo app jar. And for this, Java has the option you can use with jar -uf, and then both jars, the demo jar and my security jar. So now the security jar is integrated in the demo jar, and we can deploy the demo jar. For this, it's a typical CF push. My application name, and my target. So now it's the demo app is being deployed, including the sidecar. There we have to wait a bit. I hope our environment is fast enough today that we don't have to wait long. Now it's the sidecar is starting. And hopefully it will be ready in a few seconds. Yes, now it should be ready. So let's give it a try and send a request to the demo sidecar. In this example, it's I already included the authorization. And yes, we can see the answer, hello user. So both logics were working. Now let's have a look at the logs of the sidecar. Cap the sidecar. My logs. There are two things interesting. As I mentioned, there will be 2 JVM processes running, and here you can see I'm using Spring Boot. There are 2 Spring Boot icons in text, one for the sidecar and one for the application. In the logs, you can see which processor creates this log line. Here you have the text sidecar security sidecar, so that's a log written by the sidecar process, and the appproc web 0, for example, this line, that's a log written by the demo application, the original application. And if I scroll down, I hope there will be, oh, there's something not working correctly. Where are my log files? Yes, here my log file, my 2 log lines. One of the security sidecar, which prints out the username, and one of the process of the app, which says, hey, hello, you're in the hello world controller. So you can see both with the request, both processes were touched. First the security sidecar, and afterwards the demo app. So there are a few things I want to show you now. For this, I'm going to open a SSH session. Oh, yes, wrong command line. I need CF7. That's it. So when we look into the app folder, there we can see the blue folders are the artifacts of the demo app, and the security jar that's lying in the app folder too, that's a sidecar. So if we deploy other sidecars, for example, an Nginx or so, there will be the Nginx configurations will be also in this app folder. And that's the reason why we have to integrate the sidecars into the artifact of the application, so that it will be in this be deployed in this place. Next, we have a look at processes running. And here we can see there are these two lines. There are two Java processes running, as I mentioned, one for the sidecar and one for the application, with two process IDs 40 and 53. I hope I'm fast enough. We'll look at, no, I'm too slow. I have to do another request. We have a look at the ports. Yes. Then we can see the process with ID 53 is listening to port 8083. So that's our application, the demo application. And we can see that process ID 40 has a connection established to this port. So that's the connection between the sidecar and our application. So there you can see there are really two ports, inter-process communication using localhost between sidecar and application. So that's all I want to show you. We can talk a bit more about sidecars, but I think you're familiar with sidecars and when you have to use it. Do you have any questions?
When you're using the, have you done any performance analysis of how much faster it is using the sidecar interface versus using the two separate containers?
Mm-hmm. Yes, we've done it in our own environment. We're hosting CloudFoundry in a private cloud. Mm-hmm. And our private cloud with typically about 20 to 30 milliseconds when we're communicating between two applications. And with Sidecar, it's about 2 to 5 milliseconds.
So 4 times faster, that's pretty good.
Yes. Perhaps if you use container networking, it will be faster than the 20 to 30 milliseconds I expect.
How many sidecars have you used making a little microservice system? How many different sidecars have you used on your applications?
At the moment, 2.
2, okay.
Yes. And one for authentication authorization, and another one we've used to enrich outgoing requests to other services.
And the other question is, in terms of your future design for your application, are you looking at more and more using sidecars type of paradigm, or you're looking at more of the microservices, the bigger picture one more?
It will be an individual decision depending on the problems and the use cases we have to solve. For example, with the authorization problem, we have a lot of use cases with authorization, and sometimes we use authorization via API gateways, because we need the API gateways to hide the internal microservice structures from our clients. And then it's a good opportunity to integrate the authorization and authentication into the API gateway without sidecars. But in my opinion, it's a very good solution for dedicated problems. And I want our development teams to be able to decide if they want to use a sidecar or an API gateway, or implement it in the service for itself, or deploy another application for this problem. But we will always evaluate the use case.
Thank you.
no more question? Then, Ram, I think you can go on.
Yeah, thanks, Peter. I think that was a very good demo, quite informative. At least I learned like a bunch of things. And thank you for taking the time and making all of the effort to share this information with your team and with the larger CF community as well. So I really appreciate you doing that. But overall, thank you everyone, I guess, for attending the call. Those were really the big three big things I had. I guess we could, use the extra time for hearing any questions that folks might have, or just to choose to give ourselves back about, I guess, 15 to 18 minutes. Anything that folks want to share? Going once, going twice. Last chance. All right. Thank you everyone for joining from, I guess, different parts. Have a great rest of the day, and see you all in a month or so. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks all.
Yeah.